Studying. It's one activity that people love to hate and hate to love. It's pushed heavily in schools, forced work, but has no visibility when it comes to our craft. And when it comes to the craft, we see so many of those who go off of pure luck, but fall off due to the lack of discipline. We see a lot of this with the help of social media. The copycat syndrome is something that happens to creep into our content or even ideas. In music and pop culture, the idea of sitting, listening to a song only has a connection to a crazed musician practicing his or her skills. Every time I look on Instagram, I hear the same beats, the same samples, or the same basic loops. I started the process of breaking down albums to allow myself to get away from the monotony of using the same things as everyone else. I would sit with some headphones, an iPad, a pen for 4 or 5 hours to listen to every song in depth on an album as a producer and a musician. The album that did it for me was My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy by Kanye West. I have a very specific way I format these notes, as well as what I do in order to grow from these notes from each of these songs. So this is my iPad, and I have moved everything from like my paper journal into the iPad to do my album breakdowns. So one of the things that I started doing was I was asking questions, I was writing down notes, whether it was from a sample that I heard and how can I implement my own beats. But in this, as you can see, there are 2 columns. There's the album breakdown part, and then there's the commentary. This is the layout. So with this, I have, on the left side, I have all the songs. Like, I'm still in the process of shifting everything over, but you see, you have My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, that's the album. You have Dark Fantasy, you have Gorgeous. Then on the right side, you have all the commentary. You have bullet points, you have, arrows to every which way, asking questions and things of that nature. So with this, I bring it to the point of how and what am I thinking about when I'm doing this whole process. So we're gonna do with one of the songs is Power by Kanye West. And you all know the sample, this sample. And then there's also the drum sample, which is this. So we have drums. I have put industrial AF, but it's industrial as a mug. So we have the stompy kicks, the things I'm listening for in that song. I was listening to the drums because the drums stood out like a mug. We have the stompy kicks, we have the dampened snares. And then when you go to my commentary, I'm asking, can Waves Abbey Road, so it's like a vintage plugin that I have, can it emulate that if I were to put it on there? And I may not try it out, I may, but it's just something that popped in my mind at that time. Another thing that I was looking for was the underlay of guitar in that song. And it had a bunch of supporting instruments which seemed to clash, but it also worked at the same time. Another thing that I was putting was, did the way that they were sampling, how can I implement that in my bass videos? How can I implement that when I'm producing for an artist? When you listen to that song, like when you listen to the drums or listen to the original sample, I wouldn't have even thought about using it in that way to build such a, grandiose sound. So while looking at all of these, I have all my notes, I have everything in this left section, this right section. One of the main things, one of the most important parts is I'm listening as a producer and not a consumer. I'm not listening as a ultra Kanye fan reciting every lyric. I'm listening as, one of the dudes that's trying to figure out the secrets to this album. And I'm looking for references. I'm watching interviews. I'm watching other social breakdown commentary things about this album or whatever album I'm listening to. Like with Kanye, for example, he watched this movie called Eyes Wide Shut about this like sex cult. And it has this one piano in the scene, which is inspired by Runaway. So you hear that one piano in the first beginning, and that's like the scene where the cult was coming in and doing all their like weird stuff.
You will kindly remove your mask.
But I wouldn't have known that if I didn't really dig deep into what inspired Kanye. I could have just taken the album as face value and that would have been it. Those are one of the main things that I'm listening for. And then the last part is application. I'm asking myself 3 questions. What did I learn from the album? What can I do better? And then if I were to approach the album again, how would I do it differently? So the first album, like for this first part, what did I learn? From this, I learned that things can clash, but it can sound good. That was one of the main takeaways from it. This album is huge. This album is like fire, but I learned a lot. It's like meshing and clashing sounds is like amazing when it's done correctly. 2, what can I do better? What can I do better is in my own content, my own music. This should be a template. You shouldn't have to copy an album in order to learn from it. You should be able to take pieces and put it together and make your own sound. 3 is if I were to approach the album again, what would I do? You know, how would I learn differently? And I think I would look more into the minute sounds, the lyrical explanation of it. I'm not, a songwriter, but I think next time I'm gonna listen to that more. What stood out? Because obviously the words stand out because it's a Kanye album. So despite the production, the words need to stand out as well. So yeah, this is like just a small portion of my album breakdowns. What I do, the process, how I'm approaching it. I'm not gonna go like very in depth, but this is just a small portion of the breakdown. If you want to see more, let me know. And always, keep grinding. Peace.